Have you considered that like their brand is in the tank right now, ESPN's?
Yeah.
They're getting slaughtered by this YouTube dispute. When I see
Yeah.
some alpha announcing saying ESPN's perceptions at an all-time low, could that be driving the decision making?
Sure, sure. And again, if they're smart, they're doing that homework and listening and reading the probably millions of comments at this point because the dispute with YouTube and going, gosh, guys, maybe we need to soften a little bit. Maybe we need to use some common sense and not just stick to what we've always done because that's what we've done and we don't want to admit that we're wrong. Maybe it's a confluence of errors at this point and the timing is beautiful such that it worked out that on Veterans Day, when we're honoring our country, and those who have given so much for us to be able to talk like this, that this wouldn't be a really bad thing. It was just, I mean, can you imagine it happening on SportsCenter though, Jason? Like, no, that's to
They don't have the
me,
right host for,
correct.
L. Duncan interviewing Donald Trump. I don't think
No,
that's going to go
she would
well.
throw a tantrum and everyone else would throw a tantrum, even though it was fine to have Barack Obama on for 8 straight years doing the NCAA tournament picks every March for them to go to the White House to do that. It was fine for me to interview Joe Biden live on SportsCenter in 2021, right after he took office. Yes, I was supposed to have interviewed Donald Trump back in 2020 when COVID was running rampant, of course, and college football was coming back, thanks in part massive part, I'd say primarily because of the work of Donald Trump during that time, working with the colleges and the universities and the athletic directors and even talking to players. And if you remember, Justin Fields and Donald Trump were tight at that point, relatively speaking, trying to convince the forces to bring college football back. And then I was supposed to go to the White House and interview him, and at the last second, they nixed that. So between me and Paul Feinbaum, there's been a couple of opportunities that they said, no, not happening. So,
When when you say they nixed that, was was that in a meeting with you? Who is they? Is that Jimmy Pitaro? Is it Norby Williamson? Is it Dave Roberts? Who's they?
well, do you remember Rob King?
Yeah, of course I remember Rob King.
He got fired, I believe, for some inappropriate stuff,
Yes.
whatever. I didn't even ask. I don't care. But he was a longtime executive, black executive there who was let go like overnight. He is a boss, and that was Norby, I assume, or was Rob at that point on equal footing
Rob
with
was probably
Norby?
on equal terms at that point with
Yeah.
Norby. Yeah.
And then, but everybody answering to Jimmy Pitaro. So I never heard directly from Jimmy Pitaro, despite our very good relationship at the time. But that was Rob King. And I was like, excuse me? Wait, we've been planning this for weeks, going through all the testing protocol that will happen when we go into the White House, et cetera. And they were going to give us complete access, 30 minutes straight. They say you keep the tapes, so to speak. You ask whatever you want because it was also going to be a discussion about the at the time the bubble that had just that was I guess was it underway?
The
Yeah,
NBA
because
bubble you're
in,
talking about?
in Orlando, yeah. So it was
Yeah.
about that whole process and how trying to bring sports back, and they're like, ask whatever you want, even non-sports things. 30 minutes, one-on-one, Donald Trump. It would be either going to be in the Oval Office or the Rose Garden, depending on the weather. And we were on the way. There was a crew of 10, and then I got the call. The hypocrisy in it was really, really thick, especially because, like, I'm not even going to talk politics. I'm a sportscaster. The country wanted to know what was going to happen. What is college sports coming back? And the man that is has a huge effect on that, influence on that, was saying, "Hey, come on in. Let's talk about this." And doesn't that directly affect ESPN's bottom line? If sports, in particular college football, is back, so this was a great opportunity to do it, and he was giving us the exclusive. Instead, Dave Portnoy ended up going when I was instructed to pull away and cancel it. So yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that was 5 years ago now. That, by the way, I'm pretty sure is the reason why I got the Joe Biden interview a few months later is to try to, I think it was a makeup call there, which was a little bit different for sure. But anyway, they've come a long way. I want to say yes, let's give credit where credit's due. They let it happen. But there's no way that's happening, I don't believe, on any other program except with Pat McAfee, who's not on the Bristol campus, who's not following anyone's orders. Does whatever the hell he wants. And thank goodness for Pat McAfee.
You make an interesting point that is kind of inside baseball, but I think listeners, viewers would find it interesting. There is a difference when you do a satellite show away from Bristol. Pardon the interruption is in Washington D.C. Eric Rideholm and that group started all of that, and they have an independence from ESPN that really grates at the ESPN power structure. That's why, despite it being its highest rated show for 20 plus years, they promote First Take and pretend as if that's their number one show because it's right there in Bristol, more under their control. And so, if Pat McAfee were based in Bristol, you think it would have been harder or maybe impossible to do that Trump interview?
No, I mean, there's always more control when you're right there. But again, that said, this is McAfee. This is Pat McAfee who dropped the name Norby Williamson and called him a rat and then doubled down and did it again on his show on ESPN and was not punished and actually had Burke Magnus, Norby's replacement, come and do a selfie with him on the field and Burke let that happen after Pat on air ripped the number two ranked executive at ESPN and there were no repercussions. I remember texting him at the time because I was gone. I was like, oh my gosh, what has happened? Unfortunately, it's sad. Norby changed and Pat was speaking for a lot of people. But for that to happen and there be no, whether everybody agrees or not, when you rip an executive, name drop and call him names and nothing happens, you know that you have full control. I want you to picture this. I want you to picture McAfee calling Burke or Jimmy and saying, listen, White House just called, or I have a contact there, and they said I could have Trump on Veterans Day. Cool? And they said no. Can you imagine them telling him no? Like, that's not happening. It's impossible. And Pat
Squeaky
knows
wheel.
that. And he did right. There's just no way in hell that that happens, that they tell Pat no about anything. Look at how Pat has been so vocal, critical about this fight between ESPN, Disney, and YouTube. He's saying whatever he wants. That man has no rules. And I think it's hysterical because I'm picturing being a fly on the wall watching the executives melt down as this interview happened yesterday, but they could not tell him no.
That's ESPN needs that.
Yes.
And they need someone that's outside their control. And again, it's not that I can endorse everything that Pat McAfee does, but maybe there's some intent here by someone, maybe Jimmy Pitaro, I don't know, by someone that wants Pat McAfee to kick over the tables and overturn the apple cart, and because this is again where I say Pat is lucky. He's based in Indianapolis, doesn't have to be anywhere near Bristol. I'll never forget when I came back to run the undefeated, launch the undefeated. They had me meeting with so many different special interest groups. I mean, here you got to meet with the black employees, you got to meet with the gay employees, you got to meet with this group and that group, and I was like, nah, man, I'm just here to run the undefeated. Why do? Well, you got to make peace with all these people, and I just it undercuts you. You can't get anything accomplished. Pat being independent and coming there, Bill Simmons must be rolling over in his office thinking about, man,
But
they thought
listen,
I was uncontrollable. Look at Pat.
you're right. Oh my gosh, that was a whole different thing. Wait till the book
Yeah.
comes out on my time on NBA Countdown with him. My Lord. Here's the other part that we need to consider strategically. This allows them to say, see, we're not that bad. Look what we
Yes.
let McAfee do. Let McAfee do. Like, so this helps them, in their minds probably, balance things out a little bit, right? And say, yeah, we might be woke and idiots on pretty much every single topic, but we have McAfee over here talking to Donald Trump. So see, we're not that bad. Like they're using, I mean, they're not going to say no, number one, and it helps them to be able to use this.
they got a little interesting feud where between, I believe, McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. But more and more, I think maybe they're kind of on the same side because Stephen A. Smith has gone after Jasmine Crockett, and says some things that leftists aren't supposed to say.
Well, he goes
Uh,
on, Sean, I mean, he and Sean Hannity are like best friends. Sean told me that. Like, so when he goes on, I mean, it's not just CNN, political. When he goes on Fox News consistently with Hannity and Jesse and whoever else he goes on with, even Laura Ingraham, even Megyn Kelly, like so yeah, this is another step though to have the president on. And I think Stephen A said he would have wanted him on, but it hasn't happened for some reason. So it just doesn't surprise me at all because of who the characters are.